just like that, we're back. Matt and Brian, Bowlmas Day 8, two-man banger coming at you. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you want to say it. I'm a Merry Christmas guy, so I'll say Merry Christmas. I don't know what Brian says, so we'll be politically correct, I guess, to start this one out.
I hate the Happy Holidays. Just say Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. And then happy whatever else you want. Like, you can include them all, but why do we have to say Happy Holidays? It's all under one thing. Just
why can't we say Merry Christmas?
Yeah, just say Merry Christmas, and then if someone's Jewish, say Happy Hanukkah. If someone celebrates something else, happy whatever you celebrate.
I agree. What before we get into the NFL recap, SeatGeek's going to have a quick word. Have you gotten into a very serious debate about Die Hard not being a Christmas movie?
I've heard from plenty of people around the block, and if you're not watching on YouTube, first of all, you should be, and second of all, the whiteboard behind me says Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I've heard from multiple people that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, and to those people, I just say it is, and you're wrong. The movie starts with him in an airport on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas in Hollis comes on as the first song played in the movie. That's enough to call it a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I think it is one as well. If somebody doesn't think that, I let them believe what they want, but for the sake of keeping it short, I think it's one too. So I'm with you on that one. But let's have SeatGeek say a quick word here. All the diehard people can take a quick breath, and we'll get right into this recap, which first one's going to be fun.
The weather may be getting cold late in the year, but the sports action is heating up. With the final stretch of the football season upon us and basketball season now here, the only place to go for the best tickets for each game is SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Views from Section 400 podcast, and whether you're looking to sit courtside of the Sixers game, find a last-minute deal up in Section 400 for the Iron Bowl, or looking to just cheer on your alma mater in a preseason basketball tournament, SeatGeek's one-of-a-kind system helps you find the best deal for the best seats in the house. Use code VIEWSFROM400 at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's code VIEWSFROM400 at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, your best night ever is waiting.
Thanks, SeatGeek, right there for the quick word. Wish it could have been a little bit longer because this one I'm going to try and keep short. Not getting fired up. I'm not getting riled up. I'm sure Brian will have his words, his thoughts, and we'll just let him go on with that. But yeah, the Eagles dropped a road divisional matchup. Yeah, pause. We're already starting like that. But the Eagles drop a game to the Commanders, divisional rival, the only team seemingly that has a chance left to catch the Eagles in first place right now. 36-33. Jalen Hurts concussed in the first quarter, and after that happened, the entirety of the team seemed to forget how to play football, and I mean the entirety. The defense had no idea what was going on out there. Look, it's tough to beat a team twice in the NFL, especially division rival, especially on the road. No Hurts. I'm not going to press the panic button. Kenny Pickett, I thought, looked like a good backup quarterback. I mean, that's what he is. We're not paying the guy to be the number one guy. I thought he was a solid backup quarterback. That's what he's supposed to be, right? He's not the starter. So 143 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Again, that's solid for a backup quarterback. Saquon did everything in the first half. I don't know why you don't lead on your star running back. They decide not to. Again, it was tighter game in the second half, so maybe they had to air it out a little bit. Came down to Devonta Smith catching the ball. He caught just about everything today besides the final one. And again, look, Eagles 2 losses this year out of 3. So 2 of the 3 losses come on dropping a pass at the end of the game. Not going to get fired up, not going to get rattled. Look, let's see if Seattle can knock off the Vikings today and still make the top of the NFC playoff picture a little bit crazy. But yeah, I'm not going to overreact like I said. Brian, obviously we played in the losers bracket today, and something for different implications. You got a big game out of Jayden Daniels. But besides that, what else did you like from the Commanders? Kind of showing up and not backing down when their big bad brothers from up north came in to win the division.
Yeah, I had a couple takeaways from this game today. First off, Benjamin St-Juste is still terrible at football, and he's going to be a problem. Now, the Commanders are pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot. It would take an all-time choke for them not to. Devonta Smith completely cooked them today, and I know he had that drop, but him in the playoffs is just going to be a huge liability for them. But I'm happy you mentioned our fantasy game because it was kind of poetic to see Jayden Daniels, the guy I've been preaching for since we started this show, drafted him in fantasy, match up with you in the semifinals of our losers bracket. He becomes the first Commanders quarterback since 1991 to throw for 5 pass touchdowns in a game.
And you know what? And that's fine. You know what? I got beat by one player. That's fine. I'll live
Well,
with that all
I had
day.
like 180 points.
Yeah, and he was the main contributor.
We'll get into the
Anyway,
other contributor later on.
sure. You lost me my great train of thought now because you're trying to fucking nitpick guys who also went off. So thanks for that, Brian.
Well, I'm talking. I'm alluding to me fading my happiness and starting the Falcons defense and Drew Lock getting picked off twice for pick sixes.
Yeah, that was a joke in itself as well. The whole day was just bad. I have Devontae Adams in my other fantasy league that has me in a spot to make the playoff or make the championship game. So look, it's tough in this league, but I'm pretty close to locking up a spot in the finals for another big money league. So not all hope is lost, only a little bit. And in our league, I still have one more week at redemption, and I'm not sure if it's Tom or Nate yet. But I just know I got to lock in and have my team prepared, ready to go.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be because going from a 4-time champion to getting tomatoes thrown at your back for our punishment would not be fun.
It would not. There are some magic escape keys in the tomatoing that we will leave at that, and we'll wait and see what unfolds next week in the NFL. A lot of implications for those who do not know. I'm sure whoever it is that gets the almighty tomatoes, you will be made known. But yeah, not about our league. It's about the NFL recap today. The Eagles obviously dropped the game to the Commanders. For me, again, quick thoughts. No Jalen Hurts for basically more than half of this game. Saquon Barkley was the bruiser in the first half. Eagles jumped out to a big lead, solid lead. They abandoned the run. Kenny Pickett came in, played solid. Wasn't enough to go past Jayden Daniels. And what just jumped back in my head here, Brian, was I was just going to say you in your story, your hype, you're just trying to call me out for not Jayden Daniels being the only guy to beat me. You were not this. I get it. You were preaching about Jayden Daniels. You drafted him in like the 12th round. Your quarterback this year was Anthony Richardson, who did absolutely nothing. So I would not call it poetic. I would call it pure luck.
I drafted Jayden Daniels in like the 7th round. I made it a point to draft Jayden Daniels.
Anthony Richardson,
and that was a problem.
Was supposed to be
Anthony
your guy.
Richardson.
Anthony Richardson was supposed to be your guy. You let the Sirius XM guys.
The idea, yeah. Well, the Sirius XM guys got in my ear, but the idea was to run it back like I did a few years ago, where I had Dak and Kyler and kind of mismatching each week on who had the better matchup. But it turned into just Anthony Richardson on the waivers by like week 5.
Yeah, so I think that needs to have light shed on it. You weren't this.
I mean, I'm in the losers bracket for a reason. I'm just saying Jayden Daniels helped me get out of that losers bracket.
He did, dude. You've been putting up 150 a week in the Tomato Bowl. It is oddly weird. It is oddly weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but we'll see. I want to jump off this game because it's sickening, and we can jump on and make fun of Brian as we've been doing all year with the Falcons and the Giants. I don't think Brian was too upset, as he did have the Falcons defense in this one.
I had the Falcons defense, and at this point I'm just rooting for the top draft pick. I know I love Cam Ward, but it's looking more and more like if they get that top pick, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders, which is fine. I like them both. I just like Cam Ward a little bit better.
Does Shedeur want to play in New York? I mean, I know he kind of already has his sights set on Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think he's come out with so much like ominous just kind of things about where he wants to play, but I think he'd be fine with either Vegas or New York. I can't imagine he doesn't want to be a Giant. I know they've been a terrible organization the last almost decade now, but they're still 4 Super Bowls. They were great. Like on paper, historically, they're a good organization. They're not the Jets.
Yeah, which we'll get into that game a little bit. I was actually boots on the ground for Rams Jets, and that was another game at down to the wire that just was ugly, and the reason why the Jets are a 4-win team more than midway through December. But the Falcons Giants, they kept showing it on the Jumbotron, and it was just Falcons defense all day long. Let me ask you this: did you pick up the Falcons defense, or were they stashed on your bench? Because they've been pretty much horrible all year.
I stashed them a couple weeks ago because I saw they had this week against the Giants.
Well, good for you. I had the Bengals defense who looked really nice as well. We'll get into their game in a second, and they had 20 points. So that wasn't a big reason why you won the game. Our defenses pretty much canceled each other out, and
Falcons, they had 30.
they ended with 30.
Like 29.
Okay, what the Bengals had 20. So
Yeah.
okay, I guess +9 for the Falcons defense there. But yeah, I mean Drew Lock there against any defense in the league, you're going to be licking your chops as a fantasy manager. Evan Neal being a moron. Do you want to care to elaborate on why he is a moron?
Yeah, he's really bad at football. Matthew Judon just ate him up in this game. But there was one play specifically where it wasn't like a. Okay, so I'm trying to just make this not just completely me yelling at Evan Neal here, but if you've ever played a down of
Let it
football in
out.
your life, the cut block is used for like short yardage, maybe a sneak or an inside run. You don't cut block deep in your own territory on a deep pass pattern play. That's what Evan Neal tried to do with two guys blitzing at him. I don't know who was playing guard next to Evan Neal, but he just completely whiffed. So two guys came in right on Drew Lock. The ball got tipped, and then it got tipped into a pick six. That's not on Drew Lock. That's on Evan Neal just not knowing where he is, what he's doing, and how to play football. And Joe Schmo drafted this guy 7th overall.
I mean, it's not surprising seeing top 10 giant picks not pan out. Daniel Jones, the Evan Neal guy. Malik Neighbors, I'd say we still don't know. He's shown the promise, but we need it.
I
If the
think he'll be fine.
quarterback, I
He doesn't
think
have
he
a
will, but
quarterback.
we'll see what happens there. We thought Drew Lock would be able to at least get him the ball, and that has not worked out at all. I mean, even when they're down and they have to pass 7 points, you would think they would be able to get him at least 2 touchdowns a game, but they can't. And I'll give you
Because
the
Evan Neal's cut
non-quarterback.
blocking.
I'll
You
give you
don't have a quarterback.
the non QB for now. But yeah, look, they're gonna have to do something next year because you're gonna get down to the point where you know Neighbors is going to need a contract, and you're still fumbling around for a quarterback, and I could totally see it getting really ugly and sticky and tricky in New York again. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, maybe I'm kind of as I'm just sitting here, kind of thinking about how the Giants are so bad. Maybe Shador Sanders wouldn't be the worst thing. Because I know Colorado's O-line was better this year, but last year it was absolutely terrible. And he still
Yeah.
passed for like 300 a game. So maybe with such a terrible line in New York, he'd be used to that.
Yeah. Look, I like the optimism, I guess, but they the NFL to college, way different ball game. That's going to be a tough task to clean up that Giants offensive line. But yeah, kind of these first two games, the Eagles game and then the Giants game. Do the Giants with maybe the Eagles and some injury dismay, they have any chance to beat the Eagles the final game of the season? I think it is.
Not now. Not after the Eagles lost to the Commanders, and they'll probably have something to play for in that game.
So you're not worried about the Eagles either.
Worried about the Eagles in terms of,
Just this being like a major setback, Jalen Hurts causing a scene, the
oh,
team
no,
kind of
yeah.
falling apart
It's
right
a
at the end of the
concussion.
season, or is
He'll be
this
fine.
just a bump in the road?
Yeah, not that concussions are fake injuries, but I mean,
Right.
it's something that he has to clear the
Something.
protocol and he'll be back. It's not like he's tanked out and he just dislocated his kneecap.
Right. Right. So you're thinking Hurts back next week.
If he's not back next week, I mean, if
Is
he's
there
not
a
back for,
world? Is there a world where Kenny Pickett can keep the team afloat for the rest of the year, and the Eagles finish with a solid playoff seeding? It looks like the number one seed's out the window. But if Kenny Pickett has to start the rest of the way until the playoffs, like is this a weird situation where the Eagles do what they did last year and collapse down to a 4 or 5 loss team or whatever the numbers would line out to?
yeah, but the thing is with the West, I guess the Rams are kind of there now, but they're not going to catch the Eagles. And then
You have the
the
Vikings.
South, you don't really have any. Yeah, but the Vikings aren't going to win that division.
Right.
So
So if the Eagles win, which even with the loss today, they still kind of control their own destiny. Um, if they win the division but still pick up that loss or whatever, they would still be ahead of the Vikings though, right?
yeah,
Regardless, because the
they're
Vikings are the
pretty
wild
much
card,
if they don't get the one, they're pretty much locked into the two.
are they?
Unless I don't know what the tiebreaker would be with the Rams because the Rams have 6 losses. So if the Eagles lose out, How many? They have
Oh,
3 losses now? The Eagles? Or 2?
no, definitely more than 2.
No, they're 12-3. They're 12 and
Yeah,
3.
I think 3. I think 3.
So if the Rams can miraculously go 12-3, I don't know what the tiebreaker scenario
The
there would be.
Rams can't. The Rams just won today to go 9-6.
12-6 is what I meant. So if they both
Okay.
finish at that,
Yeah.
but no, the Eagles will get the
And the
2.
Eagles already beat the Rams.
Okay, so yeah, they have the tiebreaker. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're locked into the 2 seed there. And even if they can't get the 1, they could still get that first round. And if you have to sit Jalen Hurts until the playoffs, maybe, then
I was going to say, so with that analogy, Eagles most likely locked into number 2. How aggressive are you with Hurts the rest of the year? You can't be that, right? I mean, if you're that locked into number 2, probably going to beat the Giants end of the year. Um, you know, do you rest him final game, final 2 games? Where are you like, we got to actually win these versus we need to be healthy going into the playoffs?
it's tough because the Lions play on Monday night next week too. And they get the Niners who are
So you
out.
have no idea.
So you can't really bank on them being eliminated because if the Lions lose that game, they have the Vikings in the final week of the season. The Lions could very well lose both of those games. They're probably
Yeah.
not going to, but they could. So it's tough
Something
to
in
just
me,
lay down and die.
yeah, something in me sees the Lions beating the Vikings, and that not even being a situation. But yeah, a lot of hectic, crazy stuff. We think we kind of know where teams are locked in, but the top of the NFC could be a little funky down the stretch here. So we'll see what team gets the Christmas miracle and what team doesn't. See, again, as we're talking about the top of the NFC, the Lions dominating the Bears 34-17. Believe this game was in Chicago and didn't matter for Detroit at all. Just a classic game. They play solid defense on the road, divisional rival, and put up 30 plus points. Defense held them to 20 or under 20. It was pretty much a Lions beat down against a divisional opponent. You expect these games to be closer. No match for the Lions.
Lions offense is clicking on all cylinders. But Ben Johnson is in his bag. They ran a touchdown play today, Sam Laporta, where Jared Goff faked like he was tripping on the handoff and completely faked out the whole defense, and Laporta was wide open for a touchdown.
Is Ben Johnson the top candidate to coach the Chicago Bears?
If they're actually willing to pay him. I mean, they didn't want to pay him last year, and it's just a lot of weird stories coming out from these owners and how they're treating their GMs and head coaches lately. But Ben Johnson deserves to be a head coach in this league. The Lions defense isn't anything special. It's their offense that has been the reason they're so dominant, and he is the main reason for that.
Yeah, and look, they'll have the athletic year 2 starter in Caleb Williams with a whole bunch of weapons and probably some more draft picks to add into the roster. Seems like a pretty solid situation for Ben Johnson type guy to go in there and start his career as an NFL head coach. But we'll wait and see. Lions, what do they got rest of the way? I know they play the Vikings. Is it next week or the week after?
They have the 49ers next week on Monday night, and then the Vikings to end the year.
Yeah, so if they just beat the Niners, kind of doesn't matter last week, right?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think the
because they'd have
Lions
the
are
tiebreaker.
or the Niners are struggling with the Dolphins. They were down at halftime. As that game might still be going on as we're recording this recap.
Yeah, it's still
But
going on. They're down 19-10 in the fourth as of
so
6:54.
Niners, I mean, that's wild.
They're
That
I want to say they're mathematically eliminated after the Rams won today, so they're just kind of it's a road game. I'm sure they would just want to go out in
so
Miami
that
after.
NFC West is down to the Seahawks and the Rams.
Yep.
Yeah, because the Niners are out and the Cardinals, we'll get to that game in just a sec. They pulled themselves out of playoff contention today as well.
Yeah, that loss to the Panthers was terrible.
They had a couple like how the heck did you lose that game losses, and then a couple like how did you win that game? So weird average football team. I had them as my sleeper. They were close, but couldn't get it done. Um, yeah, moving on, Bengals. I'm sure you'll have something to say here, Brian. Beat the
Yeah, well,
Browns, which look, DTR is not a starting quarterback. I wouldn't even list him as a backup quarterback. He's really bad. Burrow goes in there. The offense is going to be no match for that defense, and any offense with DTR is going to probably go down against any of these NFL defenses. Um, Yeah, it was the Joe Burrow show early and often, and they got another win in their path to the playoff.
Yeah, Burrow's not going to get to his 50 touchdowns, which I was really hoping he'd get to, but he did become the first quarterback ever to throw for 3 touchdowns and 250 yards in 7 straight games. If the Bengals had a defense, he would be the MVP of the league this year. But they unfortunately don't, and now he has to go on this insanity run, which he's been going on to try to get them into the playoffs. And they're alive. The percentages since I said they were 3%, they've slowly been creeping up. I believe they're in double digits now.
I was going to say, do we have a number on that?
They were 11% after the Broncos loss. I haven't checked after this win, but I got to imagine they're at like 17, 18 now. They get the Broncos next week, so they can beat them. They need the Chargers to lose a couple games to really make it interesting. And the Colts winning today, which we'll get to next, kind of complicated things too. But the Bengals are alive. They got to win out, but they're alive.
What is their record right now? 7-8?
7-8.
Okay, so they basically need to get to 9-8. Colts won today, which, like you said, we'll talk about in just a sec here. So, and we'll loop them in now. Colts are 7-8 as well.
They are 7-7.
Okay, 7-7.
7-8. 7-8. 7-8.
7-8
games. Yeah.
Bengals are 7-8.
Yep.
Why did that complicate things?
Just because they're still alive there. If they would have lost, they would have been pretty much dead behind the Bengals.
Okay, so who do the Bengals have to jump here?
So the top two teams.
Where are they? Are they eighth in the NFC or AFC? Like, where are they?
Yeah, it's the top two teams in the North want to win the division, being the Ravens or the Steelers, and the other will have that first wild card. And then there's the Broncos and the Chargers.
Basically, the Bengals are chasing 7, right?
Yeah, their path is 7. They have to either knock out the Broncos or the Chargers.
Okay, so those are
and the Colts are right there with them.
Probably needed the Broncos to win that game on Thursday night, right? Because the Chargers had a worse record, or did that? I think that might have complicated things a lot more.
I think honestly, just getting one of them to lose was fine. I think it would have been a little bit better if the Chargers won, because then you could get it Broncos.
They did win, though, right?
Yeah, the Chargers did win. So yeah, it is a little bit better because then you could further knock down the Broncos by beating them. But I guess you could also.
I just thought so because the Chargers had the extra loss, so it would have been another loss. So I kind of would have played that. But you're right; those are the two teams in front. And are both of those teams going to make the playoffs, or is it one or the other for the 7?
It's right now. Both of those teams are in.
Okay, so looking for the Bengals to usurp one of those teams.
Yep,
is essentially your path, the Bengals' path. I can see how it can be fun to pick a random team when your actual team sucks and root for them.
That's what I'm doing this year.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, but especially because the Dolphins are going to be there too after they beat the Niners, assuming they beat the Niners. So,
yeah, I'd say the Bengals got a better shot than the Dolphins. What do you think?
I would think so too. Yeah, the Niners and Broncos are both sitting there at 9-6, so they one of them needs to lose out.
You mean 6 and 9?
The Broncos and Chargers.
Oh, okay.
Are both 9-6.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's going to be
the path is the Broncos because the Bengals could beat the Broncos and then the Chiefs have the Broncos.
Yeah,
so that's the team they're going
to. Which I don't know that I love, man. I've been rooting for Bo Nix this year. I kind of want to see the guy do well. I can agree with Jack and not loving the heck. I mean, his hatred towards him is far worse than mine. But I don't hate Sean Payton like that, but I can't say I'm over the top. Love the guy as a great head coach. But I'm a Bo Nix fan. I like the way he's, kind of shaved off the haters who called him a turnover machine, this, that, and the third. And he's done a really nice job for that offense that Russell Wilson couldn't control or run for the 1 to 2 years we saw him lead them. So, yeah, look, if the Bengals make it, that means the Bo Nix run is probably over. So that's not great to see because I've been rooting for Bo Nix. But something fun to watch if you don't want to pay attention to the top of each respective conference. We didn't really talk about it much here, but the Colts 38, Titans 30. Jonathan Taylor turning back the clocks, over 200 yards rushing, 3 TDs. Colts get a much-needed win to stay alive, but I don't know how much of a threat they are.
No, I don't think they're a threat at all. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor's second ever game with 200 yards. First one came against Jaguars all the way back in 2021. Also a late game. I guess it would have been the last week of the season in January, but yeah, career high for him. I can't take a team quarterbacked by Anthony Richardson seriously as a playoff contender.
Yeah, I can't believe you got, baited into drafting him early. And the guys who were in your ear weren't even in the league.
Yeah,
And
that was terrible.
I
But
could see the angle, but to go all in, chips all in, uh, I don't know if you can do that again.
yeah, but this game kind of described what the Colts. They went up early big. I think it was 38-14 at one point. And in true Christmas fashion, Rudolph was counted out in the first half, and then he came storming back in the second half. But you can't let Mason Rudolph and Chigakonkwo, who I also started this week, had a great game. But you
Where do you
can't let
find these guys? Like, I mean, that guy didn't do anything all year. Magically, would you call in? And the last 2 weeks, he's been like on like 10 plus targets at the tight end position. This guy's maybe was flipping burgers 3 weeks ago. I mean, he came out of nowhere
yeah
into fantasy relevance. He's on
the
like number
Colts
2 in the league of fantasy guys, and the guy's been nowhere to be found all year. Wild.
the Colts defense is historically bad against the
Yes.
pass, especially against the tight end. So that was the angle there. And I was really hoping for a long touchdown, but it turned out he just got peppered with targets.
Peppered with targets. I mean, that's a great performance for a tight end. 9 for 81. I think everybody would take that out of the tight end spot. So yeah, another weird guy to go off per usual, but Colts and Titans are dead in the water. I mean, they got no shot, and I don't even know if they'll be relevant next year or the year after. They have a lot to do. Colts trending the right way, but I mean, it's tough for me to see them getting in. Now, we jump into my boots on the ground game in a ice box. I think it was under 30 degrees, under 20 degrees. I bought a water. It was freezing up in the stands. So very cold game. Rams didn't look that rattled. The offense fluttered a little bit. The Jets kind of were in control all the first half and most of the second, but it got to that fourth quarter, and the Jets jet. I mean, it's what they do. Some I get it. You're 4-10. Some difficult fourth and short, 4th and 5, where they went for it. They got one of them, so that might have propelled a little more confidence into the offense to continue to go for it. And ultimately, it lost them the game as they just kept giving the Rams really good field position late in the game. I don't know if you caught any of this game, Brian, but the Rams stay alive in the NFC West and continue their winning streak.
Yeah, not only stay alive, but they're looking like Seattle's down 3 right now to the Vikings, and we'll see how that game ends up. But the Rams are suddenly looking like the favorites in that division. And a team quarterbacked by Matt Stafford with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua, and now Tyler Higbee's back. He scored today, and the whole team. That was really cool to see the whole team get super excited for him because that was an ugly injury last year. But
Yeah.
that's a dynamic offense. I know the defense hasn't really been the same. They're really struggling post Aaron Donald to get back to
Yeah.
what they were, but they're a team like we saw against the Lions last year in the first round of the playoffs. They were right there. And as long as that offense is around and healthy, and that healthy is the big question mark, but they can, I'm not saying they'll go on a run, but they can give teams a tough game and a scare.
Yeah, not a fun team to have to play in the playoffs. Sean McVay, very well experienced, has a Super Bowl under his belt with the guy who's currently starting quarterback for his team.
It's
So
been the
again,
two.
yeah, tricky game. The only other thing I would say is that you left out is Kyron Williams. Their rushing game has came to life as well. No Quinnen Williams today for the Jets, so maybe why they could have got a little bit more than they should have. But the Jets are supposed to be a rock solid run defense team, and it didn't show today. I think Kyron Williams, had a good enough game to spread out the play action when they needed to go to it. I wouldn't say it was a solid, strong game, but it was, came across the country, 1 o'clock, had to play it, like I said, across the country, 20 degrees, if that. They did what they had to do and win the game. And the only other thing I'll say is, I was on the Jets sideline lower bowl. The opposite lower bowl, which was the Rams sideline, packed with Rams fans. Packed. I mean, the Rams scored a touchdown. The stadium got loud, like really loud. I was surprised. I understand teams travel well, but the LA Rams, I mean, they showed out. The stadium was loud for the LA Rams, who, that just seems like they're just out there for, Hollywood and theatrics, but I guess they have, I know they were in St. Louis for a while, but I was shocked to see them pack out a part of the lower bowl at MetLife.
Yeah, I kind of heard it on the TV. I think it was this go-ahead field goal from Cardi when it got
Yeah,
loud, and I
it
was
got
like,
really loud.
I was very surprised hearing that on Red Zone. But yeah, no, the Rams apparently they travel well. I mean, the St. Louis had a good, and I'm
They
sure a
did.
lot of those old fans maybe that live in New York now just said, well, I can't go to the game in St. Louis anyway, so I might as well cheer for them while they're in
Right.
LA. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's
Kyron Williams, really good game. He got into it with Auburn. Tough day for Auburn Tigers on the New York Jets. Jamie Sherwood got the ball flipped at him, and then Anders Carlson missed a couple field goals.
weird for Anders Carlson too, because it was like Thomas Morstead's their punter, he's the holder, and then I don't know the long snapper, but it seemed like Morstead and the long snapper were like snapping together, and then the kicker was just off on the side. He like wasn't even talking to those guys. Aren't they supposed to be like a trio team? Or is that always
Yeah,
how it goes where they just don't communicate at all? I mean, they weren't talking at all. They would just, they would sit on the side, practice the snap. Carlson would be at the net, and then they'd run on the field. No communication. I thought that was a little weird. I don't know how the process is supposed to work for NFL kickers and their trio team there, but seemed like in a freezing cold game, you want to be communicating a little bit on the sideline.
yeah. I think that's just the Jets organization being the Jets. Because
It
Anders
might be.
he's had a tough season. He's been around. But when he was on the 49ers, he had like a game where he hit 5 field goals and basically won him the game. So
Yeah,
it's not like, and he's struggled to start his career, but it's not like he's a bad kicker, but maybe them not being a cohesive unit could really be
could really be
detrimental.
holding them down. Yeah. That's not the issue with the Jets. It certainly doesn't help when, I think they have like 4 or 5 kicks this year where if they made all those kicks, their season would be looking a lot different. But, again, the Mets will Met, the Jets will Jet, and that's the story of those two New York franchises.
Yeah, well, they're not going to be hand in hand soon. The Steve Cohen Mets are going to finally get rid of that stigma. But that's
I
another conversation for another day.
For another day. I know we won't go down the rabbit hole. But the last thing I have on this game, Jet Life was also pretty packed with Giant fans. I didn't even know they show up, or they are. I thought they were all under a rock for the foreseeable future. Um, they were showing up and just causing ruckus for no reason, but whatever. I
Yes,
guess you got nothing better to do.
they're rooting for the Jets to get a win, so they get one step ahead of the Giants in the draft.
Probably, probably. I really don't know, but if that was their angle, it didn't work out because the Jets lost by 10 points. So um, they didn't make a lot of sense. But that was one thing I noticed that I was like, whoa, it's freezing. Don't you? Would you rather be home? I mean, whether they were there or not, I don't think it made much of a difference of the outcome on the field. But they were there.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a sicko move.
Yeah, it was definitely a sicko move in their shiesty masks as well. Classic Giant trash cans. We jump into a game here which Cardinals needed to win, lose by 6 in overtime to the trending well Panthers. Brian, your boy Chuba Hubbard, 152 and 2 touchdowns. I only say it's your boy because you seem to always be the one who hypes him up year in and year out. Yeah, what do you think of this game?
He's a true just football gritty underdog. Like this guy never all he's done during his career is run the football well, and he's gotten Jonathan Brooks drafted. The Panthers have never given him the reins to be that guy, and he's finally gotten that opportunity this season to be that guy. And now he's not quite on pace, but he has the chance to become their first 1,500-yard rusher since D'Angelo Williams in 2008. It's a hell of a
Over a
season.
decade. It's over a decade. And a team that stinks. So they should be passing the ball a lot. So a 1,500 yard rusher. Yeah. Did he get it?
He
Or
needs
is he a
like
couple off?
he would need to average it basically a little less than what he did today in the final 2 games. So like
So
140
probably not
yards.
going to get quite there, but again, astounding, admirable, almost accomplishment, and really an accomplishment in itself of the Panthers needing to be kind of passing probably 60-70% of every game this year because of being down a lot. And, that's not pass yards, that's rushing yards. So I guess props to them. Panthers trending in the right direction. All three of us, you, Jack, and myself, borderline said this guy's not going to play football again in Bryce Young. And the Panthers are slowly but surely looking like they found their franchise quarterback of the future. And do we start to ask the question, who won the Bears Panthers trade where they kind of flop picks all around, and Bears ended up with Caleb Williams. Panthers got their guy a year early in Bryce Young.
If you really want to just really look at the way that trade's looking right now, I know DJ Moore has been, I won't
Fine.
say fantastic, but he's been good. But beyond that, like you can make the argument that Bryce Young has looked better this year than Caleb Williams has.
The only difference I'd give him is that, Bryce Young had an extra year to kind of get prepared. Other than that, I agree 100%.
And then like you look at the other picks there, and no one that's really made an impact. The one that probably made the most of an impact is Tariq Stevenson, and he's a good player, but his biggest impact, at least this season, has been showboating and then letting a Hail Mary happen.
Yeah, it's weird. It makes no sense. That's, why we saw the crazy change, or not crazy change, right? Everybody was calling for Eberflus's head, but yeah, I mean, it's weird how the dynamics kind of shifted into like everybody's like, oh, Bryce Young and the Panthers are fine. They got their head coach from the Bucks, so it's like, oh, okay. And now the Bears are like, dumpster fire. What the hell is going to happen to them next year? I have no idea. I'm surprised the GM still has a job. Maybe they're waiting for the offseason to get him out of there, but it's almost like this offseason is worse than last offseason for the Bears, and they have the quarterback in hand now. So weird dynamic.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna have to try to build in the trenches.
Yeah.
You would think that their receiving core is good. DeAndre Swift, I know Jack hates DeAndre Swift, and watching some of that game today, he's not very good at football.
Well, why can't Swift and Roshan Johnson be the yard sale David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs?
I guess they could.
Need to fix the O-line.
Yeah, you need to fix the O-line. You're gonna have to build this through Caleb Williams. You're gonna have to build it through the passing game, and
Right.
to do that, you need to give Caleb time to throw, and he
Right.
hasn't had that. And when he hasn't even looked that good. So
Well, there's been a couple games where he put up 300 plus yards, which is always an accomplishment as a rookie. But other than that, you're
yeah.
right. He's a
Well,
lot more.
one of those games was against the defense that just let Chigo Kongwo have 100 receiving yards.
Right. Understandable. But look, you got to find some silver lining when you already have your star quarterback and he's not exactly a star.
Yeah, and I think that should be fine long term, but again, they're the Bears.
Yeah. They're that weird Midwest team where it's like the Jets will always jet, the Bears will always bear. I mean, that's
Chicago sports will always just Chicago.
Yeah, it's a tough time there. But let's jump into some of these later games. Hard, I guess, to give a full opinion or analysis, as I think most, if not all, are in the second half. But Brian, you want to give us a quick run through of the games in progress as they stand, and maybe we can kind of take an educated guess on where we see some of these playing out the rest of the way.
So we did go final in the Vikings and Seattle game. The Seahawks lost at home 27-24. I'm not sure how this thing ended, but Sam Darnold had 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had 2 of them, 144 yards.
What was the final? 24-17 or something like that?
27-24.
Wow.
Yeah, Darnold played basically a perfect game here. 246, 3, no interceptions. Jefferson did his thing. Geno, 2 interceptions. I think he's still hobbled by that injury. Surprised they let him play, but maybe Sam Howell's just that bad. Who I at one point called elite last year on the show.
By you. You and
Yeah.
Jack, maybe. Jack just maybe wasn't as over the top optimistic as you might have been. But I do remember you guys had high hopes for Sam Howell being elite.
Yeah, did you end up starting Zach Charbonnet in fantasy?
I did.
Yeah, he had 1 carry for -1 yard.
Yeah, look, I had nobody else to start. I kind of assumed that my game was over before it even started. Pacheco's fallen off a cliff, which if he never got injured, Kareem Hunt would be nowhere to be found, and Pacheco would have been a very nice running back this year. Kareem Hunt coming in, getting involved. What do you mean? Are you going to tell me I'm wrong?
No, maybe we should just go on a quick little 5-minute tangent here about the Chiefs because they're winning, so I can't really yell. But like, I don't understand. I think they're winning at this point because of like the black devil magic juju. Like Andy Reid is doing things that would get coaches fired.
And
He's
we're making excuses for like other teams. We're like, oh, well, the Texans have been bad. And then it's like, oh, well, they barely beat the Panthers, but they still won. And it's like, oh, it was close against the Raiders, but they still won. And it's like, dude, these are like games where they could very well easily lose or should be losing. They got killed in Buffalo, but I think I agree with where you're going with this.
Yeah, like any other coach on any other team, if they're playing Kareem Hunt, giving him more carries on Isaiah Pacheco, if Justin Watson is getting more snaps than DeAndre Hopkins, who I know is older now, but he's still DeAndre Hopkins, and that's
Right.
Justin Watson. These are things that should not be happening and should get a coach fired, but they're working. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's like Nick Sirianni giving the ball to Gainwell more than Saquon Barkley. Now it's probably not to that extent, but it's like that to
Yeah.
where most fan bases would be like, "What are we doing?" But they're not turning into losses. I don't think Kansas City's a real sports town, and that's what we have. We have guys who are just kind of riding the high of Mahomes and Andy Reid, and the fans don't even notice this little stick that you pulled out of what you've been seeing from the Chiefs the last couple of weeks.
It's they're such a weird team because I want to think this is the best record they've had during this run where they've won two in a row this deep in the year. Because they normally
Yeah,
start off with a few losses,
right.
but this feels like the worst team they've had. Yet they're still winning, and they're probably going to be the one seed and probably going to go back to the Super Bowl.
And that's all their fans look at.
It's ridiculous.
Look, it has to turn into losses for this the bystander. Maybe some hardcore fans of Kansas City are looking at that and are concerned for the playoffs, referencing that Buffalo game. But you know, on the surface, they're winning one loss. Patrick Mahomes was supposed to be injured and was running around like a magic act on Saturday. So,
He did miss a couple bad throws that he normally
but he was
makes.
still flying around out there.
Yeah.
Kind of a faker, if you ask me. Do you agree or disagree?
I think they had him on whatever painkillers Aaron Rodgers was on that one Sunday
What?
football game where he had the interview
Yeah.
and just completely changed
Because I
it.
mean, dude, this guy looks like he can't take another step into like scrambling on 3rd and 14 for a first down.
Yeah, he has a little bit of the Big Ben play up the injury in him, where Big Ben would show up to practice in a walking boot like every week.
Right, every week, and then like be fine to play on Sunday. It's what they do. It's kind of the quarterback drama that they can play into and keep everybody on their toes, and I guess keep themselves relevant in the media, whether it's good relevance or bad. Yeah, Chiefs get it done on Saturday. Kind of rolls us into the Pats and the Bills here. Did that game go final? I know the Pats behind Drake May were up 14-0 on the road in Orchard Park. Something tells me the Bills came back.
Yeah, they were up early. They haven't scored since. It's 24 to 14 right now. 4 minutes left. New England has the ball, but it's likely over. I don't see a path.
Yeah, it's the NFL script. Give the
Oh, you
Pats
know what? They just hit a big pass, and now they have second and goal.
well, either way, give the Pats, a early two score lead to let their script written NFL MVP of this year, Josh Allen, go to work, come back. He'll have that to add to his resume, comeback win. Um, so yeah, I think that's no more than that. Let's keep a game that on paper is probably not going to be interesting. Make it interesting.
Yeah, it's weird showing from Buffalo, and I don't know
Look,
what the
it's
deal is
been
with
tough for
Lamar
them the
Jackson.
last couple of weeks. They had to play the Rams in LA, lost that game in a shootout, and they go to Detroit, beat Detroit, and then another game at home. But New England's always that tricky spoiler team. Looks like it's not going to phase them. You seem to be thinking Pats have a quick comeback in them right here. Um, I don't think they can score here, stop them, and then score again. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's most likely they'll kick the field goal and then try to get the onside kick and lose 24 to 17. But just a weird game.
Yeah, really
Bills
is.
top receiver James Cook with 26 yards.
That is weird. All right, well, so we'll kind of see if that one goes final as we're still recording here. How much does that have left in it?
They just did the 2 minute warning.
2 minute warning. All right, so we'll hit some of these last little games and then check back in with that one. But Raiders, Jags, are these the two worst teams in football?
No, because the Giants exist, but
But not far behind.
Shador Sanders, unless Mac Jones can make something happen here, is looking like he is destined to be a New York Giant. The Raiders are leading 19-14 right now. And if they win, that would be their third win, leaving the Giants as the lone team with 2 wins left.
And well, where does that leave the Jaguars?
Jags got 3.
Okay, so would they make a shock move and go Shador Sanders and kick Trevor Lawrence to the curb?
No, the Jags no chance. They would if they got it, they would go with they would either trade it or maybe Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter
Yeah.
and Brian Thomas would be disgusting.
Yeah, and it seems like that's no, they can probably ride it out with Trevor Lawrence for a couple more years and put some weapons around him before they go causing drama and blowing that up. But yeah, so I mean, I think if you're a Giants fan, you're pretty firm at maybe not the number 1 pick, but getting your guy at 1 or 2, no?
If the Raiders win this game, there's no reason the Giants should even trot out a football team for the next 2 weeks.
No reason, right?
Forfeit the games and get that 1 pick.
Yeah, which obviously we know they can't do, but like the Eagles did that 1 year against the Giants.
Yeah, you could sign Nate Sudfeld wherever he is now. He's probably in Cancun or something and just throw him out there without knowing.
We'll get our third string out there. What the hell's his name? But he's like either way, he was the guy from Stanford. Oh, Tanner McKee, the guy from Stanford. And he got the most publicity and headlines of his entire career because he knew how to speak Portuguese, which is what they speak in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only reason why the fan base knew him, because they like hyped him up for the week leading up to the Brazil game. And then nobody heard a word from him the rest of the year until I saw him on TV warming up because they were possibly thinking put him in over Kenny Pickett, or Kenny Pickett got hurt. I don't know. But yeah, that's all we have there.
Yeah, no, I'm rooting for the Raiders. Let's see it. Let's get that third win and leave the Giants with 2.
Shouldn't be too hard to get, and it'll be there's always joy or excitement you can find in as crazy as the top of leagues can be, the bottom of leagues can almost be just as fun. We'll see how the number 1 pick sweepstakes end as we have only a couple weeks left to go. But the final one that I want to touch here, we talked about it. Dolphins were up 19-9 or 19-10. Dolphins and the Raiders down there in Miami.
Yeah, Dolphins Niners. 22-17. It looks like Brock Purdy just threw an interception.
22-17 is the score?
Yeah, so the Niners had the ball down 22-17, and Brock Purdy just threw a pick. Niners do have all 3 of their timeouts, so they can get it back, but they're around midfield, so they'd have to drive the length of the field with about a minute and a half left if they would, and needing a touchdown. So they're likely dead. The Dolphins would be 7-8, and I don't know. I'll look who they have left on the schedule, but could be alive.
So it could be alive, and not great for the Bengals.
Not great for the Bengals at all.
Like that just puts them right in the mix.
The
Dolphins have a decent defense.
Yeah, they end it with Cleveland and the Jets. So the Dolphins could very well get to 9-8. They are both.
That final game, I believe, is at MetLife, JetLife, whatever you want to call it. So it could be a tricky road game. And if it's anything like it was today, 15, 20 degrees, I can't imagine that's a fun game for, Miami to play right at the end of the year, last week of the regular season.
Week before is in Cleveland too, which might even be more cold. So
yeah, so better get warmed up now this week because they go on the road to basically under freezing temperatures the last final 2 weeks. It'll be interesting to see, but yeah. What do we got on that Pats Bill game before we sign off here?
I'm assuming they kicked the field goal, but I will check real quick. Let's see. They must have gotten a penalty. It's 2nd and goal at the 4 still. Just came out of a 2-minute warning.
24-14?
24-14, yep.
Yeah, I'll stick with the Bills closing that one out. But speaking of closing it out, that's the NFL recap for this week. Yeah, we'll be sure to bring you guys through the next one. Playoffs are heating up. If you remember last year on my bets, 5-0 in the divisional round. Won't let you miss that. We're going to all go against the board in the rounds this year, so stay tuned for that. It's only a couple weeks away here as playoff football is basically here. Make sure you tune in tomorrow and throughout the week for some more Bowlmas content and some more college football stuff as the playoff first round came and went, and now we look to some semifinal matchups. I'm Matt. Brian, as always, I'll see you all in the next one.
Touchdown Patriots, and we're almost through it, boys. 4 more days of Bowlmas left. 3 more days.